Katrina coverage continues here on the Weather Channel, Hurricane Central.
You're looking at wind and waves at Fort Walton Beach live as our Category 4 hurricane is making it onshore this morning in southern Louisiana.
And I'm Jeff Morrow. I'm to the north of Lake Pontchartrain here in Covington, Louisiana. Winds definitely gusting up to about tropical storm force. We've already had power out, and we've already had some tree limbs snapping off. I'll have a live report here in just a moment.
Here in southern Alabama, tornado warnings are coming out fast and furious. Right now, the wind is picking up as Katrina makes its move.
Well, good morning and welcome to our special storm alert coverage of Hurricane Katrina. I'm Heather Tesh.
And I'm Marshall Cease. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let's take a look at what the stats are on Katrina at this hour. First, we take you to the Pontchartrain Center in Kenner, Louisiana. You're feeling the effects of Katrina this morning.
You know, these scenes here are rough, but it's going to turn a lot rougher as we continue through the morning hours as things continue to intensify. We do have advisories up here for Katrina along the coastal areas, both watches and warnings here for our hurricane.
Already have reports of 85-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That was at New Orleans at the Lakefront Airport. That was about an hour ago. Peak wind gust 114 miles per hour has been reported as well.
And we can give you the swath here to show you where it is headed. And certainly once we continue to see the system working on shore, we're going to have a lot of inland impacts coming from this system. You're going to find some very rough winds coming in here. Some areas already have sustained hurricane force winds, and we've been seeing some areas with winds that have been over 100 miles per hour.
Swath carries it into the Ohio River Valley by Wednesday. Need to look out in Louisville, Lexington, also Cincinnati, Ohio. We'll have more details on those impacts coming up a little later in the show.
Our team of meteorologists fanned out across the Gulf Coast to cover the arrival of Katrina. Jeff Morrow is in Covington, Louisiana. Storm tracker Jim Cantori is in Gulfport, Mississippi, and Mike Seidel is in Mobile, Alabama. Jeff, let's start with you. You moved north of New Orleans out of harm's way, but what are the conditions like in Covington right now?
They're getting worse. I can tell you that the power is off in most areas around here right now. There are still some sporadic areas. A lot of folks do have some generators, some of the local businesses and hotels, and so they're well prepared for that, at least temporarily, but a lot of the main power appears to be off. It was in our hotel when we got up early this morning. Just before I came out here to do this live report, got out of the satellite truck and we heard a big snap and looked up, and one of the big pine trees had lost a big limb off the top of it. That's going to start happening more and more as we get more in the way of tropical storm force gusts, and of course it'll go over hurricane force here as the eye passes by. Right now it appears like the eye may pass just to our east. Here we're looking down around the Kenner area, and it's some of the traffic early this morning, and I got to tell you folks, if you haven't evacuated by now, I think maybe the best thing to do would just be to wait this one out. We had our opportunity to get out. I know that the Pontchartrain Causeway closes when the winds get up over 45 miles an hour. I got to believe that causeway is shut down now, so you can't come northbound across Lake Pontchartrain, nor would you want to. And so maybe it's best just to try to stay in and not be out on the roadways. As we head through the morning, there's going to be a lot of flying debris. The wind basically coming out of the east-northeast or northeast this morning here. It'll switch around more to the north, and that coming across Lake Pontchartrain could cause some big problems as it pushes that very shallow lake around and perhaps spills it over the levees. We're going to have to just take a wait and see on that. That's what everybody really is fearing at this point. Looking at the radar again, we are on the northwest side of the hurricane right now as it comes ashore down toward the Boothville area in the Mississippi Delta, but we'll have these spiral bands of heavy rain and very, very gusty winds as we get closer to that eye. Again, it looks like it may pass just east of New Orleans in our area, but we'll definitely be on the very strong western eye wall. Well, let's head a little bit farther to the east now. Mike Seidel standing by in Mobile, Alabama. Mike, your conditions going downhill as well, I imagine.
They are, Jeff, and you mentioned earlier about the ability of the wind to snap trees and limbs, and that's one of the two reasons we moved away from Mobile Bay and downtown Mobile. The surge, flood potential, and there's so many trees down there. Out here in suburban Mobile, out on 65, fewer trees, so fewer chances for debris to come flying through the air. We do have a tornado warning right now. We've had several this morning. This one is for Mobile and Baldwin counties until about 15 after the hour, including the Turnerville area in Citra. Now, that's about where the cell is now. It's moving northwest to 25 miles per hour. Here's some pictures from early this morning as the wind has been whipping the flag and the trees out here, up here by the Airport Boulevard and I-65. We've had wind gusts to almost 50 miles an hour, a lot of rainfall. The flash flood warning continues for all Mobile County until 8 o'clock this morning, and we're expecting storm totals upwards of 8 to 10 inches of rain. Again, this is just the fringe. The power is on, at least where we are here in Mobile. That will likely change as we get the real meat of the storm later on this morning and this afternoon. By the way, by tomorrow, it's all out of here, and the sun will come back out tomorrow for the cleanup and temperatures around 90. Kim and Nick, earlier I heard Jen mention someone paid a cabbie Marshall paid a cabbie $1,000 to ride them from New Orleans up to Atlanta. We'll take $750 tomorrow for our trip back and carry him right to the airport. How about that?
That sounds good.
Right.
All right, thanks, Mike. Dr. Steve Lyons coming up next, and any way you look at it, this is Hurricane Central. We have a bottom line for you.
Well, you know, certainly a very dangerous situation here. Katrina has weakened slightly, but still very intense, very dangerous here. Landfall is imminent. It is happening right now, and the impacts will spread north ahead of the center. You are watching the Weather Channel Hurricane Central. Much more with our coverage continues, including your local on the news.
Welcome back to Hurricane Center at the Weather Channel. Under storm alert mode as we watch the landfall of Hurricane Katrina. I'm Marshall Cease.
And I'm Heather Tasha. A very dangerous situation this morning as we continue to monitor it. Working on shore right now, it does have some top sustained winds still of 145 miles per hour. Now that has weakened somewhat overnight, but again, this is still a Category 4 hurricane. Very dangerous situation through here. It is moving right now to the north at about 15 miles per hour.
And its barometric pressure is at 918 right now. Again, as Heather said, 145 mile per hour max winds, moving north 15, 70 miles south-southeast of New Orleans. That's all. And of course, we have meteorologists stationed throughout that area to bring you the latest on Katrina.
And Jim Cantori right now is in Gulfport, Mississippi. He filed this report.
Hey, good morning, everybody, from the Armed Forces Retirement Home here in Gulfport, Mississippi. We are feeling pretty safe here right now, but unfortunately, because of the rain being so heavy, we may actually lose the signal before the worst of the winds getting through here. Really, we have not seen a lot of damage. I mean, for the most part, you can see how the wind's howling across the parking lot here. I mean, it looks like somebody's out here with a big hose just spraying everything down, occasionally gusting 50 miles an hour. That is probably a stronger gust right there. No doubt about it. The trees are holding out pretty good. These water oaks can take quite a beating and still be standing, but I can still stand out here in this parking lot without too much problem. But the problem is the rain is coming down so heavily, we may lose our signal this morning. So we wanted to give you an update. Again, power on and off from time to time. No word as to how high the water is at this point. We're going to try and get down there a little bit later on. We are only a half mile from the beach, but we are 27 feet up, so we're feeling out of the way of any potential surge to surround us here. But, you know, it's amazing. I mean, when you see this rain just whip across this parking lot like this, look over at a couple of cars, and you see them occasionally shaking, you know that you've got a powerful hurricane on its way. The bad news is, all right, and don't miss this, is we haven't even gotten into a fraction of this thing yet. And believe me, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. We still have a 150-mile-an-hour hurricane out there, and the worst of it is yet to come. I'm Jim Cantori in Gulfport.
That was Jim Cantori, Gulfport, Mississippi, which is about 30 miles from New Orleans, and the center of the hurricane is 70 miles south-southeast of New Orleans. That's 100 miles away that he's getting hit with that kind of rain. And
let's find out more information about some of the areas surrounding here, how they're going to be impacted by this. Here's Dr. Steve Lyons. And Steve, when do you think that New Orleans will see the worst of this?
Well, right now it looks like about 2 or 3 hours. The northwestern eye wall of the circulation will make its closest approach to southeastern New Orleans. Right now it's making landfall near Port Sulphur, Louisiana, and the extreme southeastern portions there. You see the eye, and moving straight north. So we expect it to miss New Orleans to the east just slightly, but the western eye wall could catch southeastern portions of the city of New Orleans. Either way, they're going to have very strong winds, well over hurricane force. Power outages will be widespread. Down in here, signs down, significant damage to structures is probably occurring. It'll come up to the north and make a second landfall in Mississippi in somewhere around 4 hours or so, maybe a little beyond that, but approximately 4 hours there near Biloxi Gulfport or just to the west of there. Now let's look at the radar, because that's going to tell us a couple of interesting things. First of all, you see the center there. There's the eye wall in there where the strongest winds are right there. That band is moving to the north. There's the city of New Orleans there, so it's going to pass to the east of New Orleans, and to Slidell as well. It's going to pass east of there. But here's Gulfport, Biloxi, and this right front quadrant is going to be sliding up there. Right now, we've already seen a surge there measured by NOAA buoy gauges of about 8 or 9 feet. And the circulation hasn't even gotten there. So we expect the water to rise there rather dramatically over the next 3 or 4 hours, with the peak probably approaching about 4 hours. In the meantime, very heavy rain occurring in southeastern Louisiana. We could see some flooding in the city of New Orleans briefly as the system goes by, with very high surge in Mississippi.
And major travel impacts as well, as we head to the travel desk now with Nicole Mitchell.
And obviously, the airports are going to be shut down in some areas. Can you kind of fill us in?
Also parts of Interstate 10, and really Interstate 10 anywhere Louisiana through the Panhandle. If it is open in your area, I wouldn't travel there at all today. So here are some of the areas that we're going to continue to watch. Again, airports that are closed include New Orleans, Mobile, Gulfport, which is near Biloxi, and Fort Walton Beach. So all problem spots that we're going to continue to have problems at for the rest of the day. Places to watch, well, there's a number of them, because not just the south, but this is going to spread northward as well. So we're going to see cities such as Atlanta and later on Philadelphia all having problems. Boston, fogged and storms. This is a different system, but Pittsburgh, you could get some of these bands. Atlanta, same thing. Heavy rains as this system continues to push inland. So Atlanta, for today, you are going to have some major travel problems. Here's that lookout already, but as this storm continues to push in, look for 82 degrees, but rain and storms in the forecast, and again all through the south. That's going to be problematic. Marshall and Heather.
That's an underused term today, problematic.
And now a look at how Katrina will be impacting some inland areas. That's next.
And the wind and the rain is affecting us.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning here on Your Weather Today. I'm meteorologist Heather Tash along with Marshall Cease.
Yes, we just have a word of official landfall. Hurricane Katrina made landfall southern Plaquemine Parish, Louisiana, just south of Burris as a Category 4 hurricane. Max winds 140 miles to the hour to the east of the center.
And what you're looking at here is the French Quarter in New Orleans, where they are getting hit with some heavy rain. We do have some wind gusts in and around the New Orleans area, ranging from about 81 to 85 miles per hour, and you can see some of the most intense, dangerous winds here, the eye wall region around the hurricane.
And just north of the center of circulation, where you see that shaded in the red, that's a tornado warning for 2 parishes, Plaquemine Parish and St. Bernard Parish in South Louisiana. The Hurricane Katrina eye wall moving on shore to the north is indicating winds over 100 miles per hour, and that is tornado force winds.
And Stephanie Abrams is live in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And Stephanie, you know, some folks might think you're far away from this, but what kind of impacts are you seeing?
Well, we're actually seeing tropical storm force gusts here in Fort Walton Beach. So this is a very big storm that's affecting a lot of us. And I wanted to show you these sand dunes that they've built up here along this hotel. And they did this after Ivan, because after Ivan, they had the Gulf and a whole lot of sand. They told me on the first floor, the sand was piled up so high, they had to bend over to be in those first floor rooms. So they built these dunes, and guess what? They are working, because earlier today, we got some video of places where they don't have the sand dunes, and what's happening is this Gulf is washing right over their seawall, and we're actually already seeing a little bit of flooding on the roadway. So it is a good thing that we have these sand dunes in front of this hotel, and where we don't, that water is coming right up to those dunes. Now, we're not really prone to surge here in Fort Walton Beach, but there are some waves. As you can see behind me, the waves are really kicking up. And here's looking at what I was telling you about just moments ago, about how where there aren't dunes, that water is actually coming over the seawalls already, and we are seeing the flooding. So let's talk about the surge. Again, not really prone to it here in Fort Walton Beach, but those waves, as you can see, that Gulf It's not what it looks like on an average day, that is for sure. Waves anywhere from 25 to 35 feet, and as you head over to Gulfport, about the same. And then, of course, in New Orleans, the big concern there is that surge. It could be right around 20 feet. And as this thing is making landfall, it's just going to continue to worsen for those folks along the Louisiana and Mississippi coast. And as you can see, it's not going to get much better as you head east and west.
And we're going to show you some pictures here. This is Fort Walton Beach, and keep in mind here that this is about 190 miles from the center of a hurricane, and here we have some of those winds that are gusting over 40 miles per hour. So, you know, it's going to be a rough go for a very wide stretch of the Gulf Coast here as we continue to see Hurricane Katrina making landfall.
Talk about a rough ride. We go to Nicole Mitchell now, who rode through Katrina over the weekend.
Yeah, I was in it Saturday night into Sunday morning when it was going from a Cat 3 to a Cat 4 and then very quickly to a Cat 5 right after we left.
What kind of ride was it?
It wasn't too bad. Obviously, Eyewall was where we saw the most intense weather, but on that pass out, we'd had consistent winds, you know, maybe 110 knots, which is 125 miles an hour. As we were passing out, we saw 137, which went up to 160 miles an hour, which just shows how quickly that thing started to intensify when it did go to a Cat 5.
Wow, excellent, cool.
And flying through a very historical hurricane, you know, one of the strongest that we have seen.
Indeed. Landfall officially 6:10 Central Daylight Time. We'll have more.
I'm Jeff Morrow in Covington, Louisiana, just north of Lake Pontchartrain near Interstate 12. Winds have been picking up here all morning long, starting to get some tree limbs snapping and a lot of power flashes out there. The power is out. We'll have a live report and tell you how bad we think it's going to get.
And Jeff here in Mobile County, another tornado warning was just issued until 6:45. We'll have the latest and check Sky Tracker next.
It's 1:30 as we continue our special storm alert coverage of Hurricane Katrina. I'm Heather Tesh.
It has made landfall. We're going to take you for some new video footage that we have from New Orleans. You can see here the rain pelting the area. This is Kenner, Louisiana. At Lakefront Airport, they're indicating winds gusting to 81 to 85 miles per hour. Sustained winds to almost 60 right now out of the north-northeast. And this hurricane is still well to the south of New Orleans.
Keep in mind, too, we do have tornado watches in Louisiana, South Mississippi, South Alabama. You can see the first landfall here, 6:10 a.m. Central Time.
That's just south of Burris, Louisiana. Winds are 140 miles per hour at the official landfall. Dr. Lyons says it should make a second landfall on the coast of Mississippi a little later this morning. Heather mentioned the tornado watches. We also have tornado warnings in Baldwin County and Mobile County in southwest Alabama.
Well, our team of meteorologists is fanned out across the Gulf Coast to cover the arrival of Katrina. Jeff Morrow is in Covington, Louisiana. Stephanie Abrams is in Fort Walton Beach. And Mike Seidel is in Mobile, Alabama. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams, as we mentioned, is in Fort Walton Beach here. We're going to start, though, with Jeff, I believe. And Jeff, I know your power is out where you're located right now. Any signs of activity on the roads?
Not really. I think we saw one police cruiser that may have come by just kind of checking things out a little while ago. But really, I don't see anything. In fact, the lights are out just about everywhere now. There was a generator that was going on in one of the hotels across the street not too long ago, but I think that is even down now. It is starting to, dawn is breaking here, and we have a whole row of pine trees here. You can probably see some of them behind me. We're really kind of keeping an eye on that. The wind is coming from the other direction, so if these pine trees, which are a soft wood, if they snap, which they often do, hopefully the limbs will go flying the other direction into the field. But I'm kind of keeping a wary eye on that because we do expect the winds to get a lot stronger here. Right now, Louisiana getting hit pretty hard. It does look like this eye of this hurricane, as Dr. Steve has been mentioning, is probably going to pass by to our east. In fact, I think we can go to the Sky Tracker here. And again, we are definitely on the northwest side of it. The hurricane has made the turn to the just about the due north. It looks like the eye may go by just east of New Orleans. And of course, we're pretty much due north of New Orleans, so it'll probably move by just east of us as well. We'll be on the western side. That means northerly winds here and also northerly winds on Lake Pontchartrain. I can't stress that enough. That lake's going to get blown around and there is going to be some flooding. It's just a matter of how much and exactly where. The fact that the hurricane is weakening somewhat is good news, but again, this is still a very, very powerful and dangerous storm. Again, you have to forgive me if I keep glancing around. I don't want any debris to come and hit me unexpectedly here, but I think we're in a pretty good location here, and we should be able to broadcast pictures to you as long as possible, but for much of the evening. All right, let's go a little bit farther east now. I think we're going to go over to Mike Seidel. He's in Mobile, Alabama. Mike, I guess you're getting drenched there as well.
We are, Jeff, and we're getting some pretty significant wind gusts running in the 40 to 50 mile an hour range. We had a peak gust just below 60, and when the winds get up above about 50, you start to hear that howling between the buildings and down the roads, and that eerie feeling that you often associate with tropical weather, and also obviously nor'easters and big snowstorms and windy weather in the cold months of January and February. That tornado warning continues in Mobile County out around the Stockton area. Keep an eye out there until 6:45. So we've got almost continuous tornado warnings coming out for Baldwin and Mobile counties this morning as we start to get those feeder bands, and that is not a surprise at all. As Dr. Forbes mentioned yesterday, our severe weather expert, this is very typical with severe weather. We're going to have 8 to 10 inches of rain easily. So far, the power is on here. We've got our flashlights ready. I hope you do in this area, because no doubt a lot of us are going to be without power as the winds really pick up later on. Pictures early this morning before sunrise, and you can see the wind whipping around. We've had horizontal sheets of rain so far, and because of all the rain we've had overnight and a lot more expected, they've got a flash flood warning now until 8. That could be extended. We also have a flash flood watch continuing until Tuesday morning. Heather and Marshall, let's check that forecast real quick. Again, the hurricane conditions setting in the next few hours, continuing through late this afternoon and early this evening. Then by tomorrow, the rain will start to ease off, maybe a morning shower, certainly afternoon sunshine, and the winds will back around to the southwest tomorrow, but they'll be still kind of fresh and gusty, 25 to 30 miles an hour at times. There you go. I don't know if you can hear that wind howling, but boy, it is really starting to pick up here across southern Alabama.
All right, thanks, Mike. Glad the power's still there, and it may be inevitable that it goes out, but we hope it stays for a while.
Yeah, let's take a look at this landfall once again as Katrina made it onshore officially at 6:10 this morning, Central Daylight Time. Its second landfall, if you remember, the first one was in Florida. Could have a third later this morning on the coast of Mississippi. Dangerous winds around that eye wall, and these are some of the wind gusts being reported. Gulfport, 56 miles per hour. Biloxi, we're looking at 51 miles per hour. New Orleans, peak wind gusts so far of 85. In Grand Isle, 114.
We'll continue to watch the system as it works inland with its danger. You're going to find that we do have some tornado warnings right now. Baldwin County in southwest Alabama. Well, good morning. Heather Tesh and Marshall Cease here. You know, we're talking still about Hurricane Katrina. Last week, sweeping across Florida, then, though, only a Category 1 hurricane.
Yeah, and that was the first landfall. This is the second landfall. It occurred this morning at 6:10 Central Daylight Time officially, and there'll probably be a third one within the next couple of hours as you look at the eye wall now over extreme southeastern Louisiana, where tornado warnings are in effect. They're in effect for Baldwin and Mobile counties until 6:45 Central Daylight Time. Also for Plaquemine and St. Bernard Parish. Some of these warnings, those especially for Plaquemine and St. Bernard Parish, just for the winds encountered in the eye wall of this hurricane.
And one place that this hurricane is headed to is Gulfport, Mississippi, and that's where our storm tracker Jim Cantori is right now. And Jim, are you seeing any signs yet of the surge?
Yeah, Heather, I'm sorry I couldn't hear you. The generator just kicked on here because of the power outages that we just have. They keep coming on and off, and this one's been off for a while now. But again, the winds continue to pick up, winds 60 miles an hour. Also the water, and I think that's the question you actually asked me about the water here. We are a half mile from the beach, and Highway 90 is the road that goes right on the beach there. That is completely covered in water right now. There's another access road on top of that we're allowed to still drive on, but the water came up pretty quick, and obviously as that water continues to come up, which will be, if you will, in the surge area, we need to be very, very careful to head out there and get the pictures. But we can do that as long as it's available to us. But again, the water is starting to rise here in the Gulfport area. It's already breached the seawall. It's already come up on Highway 90. Let's go ahead and try to pan around here and show you what we got. Again, winds gusty, rain continues to come down. We are just getting pummeled with rain. You can see how the tree limbs are getting swept with the rainfall and the wind obviously gusting. Occasionally we'll see a tree limb blow through the parking lot. Small branches mostly right now, again with winds 50, 60 occasionally with gusts. But, you know, again, I can't see that far out, but the more light that comes on this, the better chance I'll have of giving you a better picture of what's going on here. But right now, guys, the big concern is the water coming in from the surge. It's starting to come up already as high as 10 feet, no more than a half mile off to my south. Back to you. Oh, actually, let's go to Stephanie is in Fort Walton Beach. Speaking of wave action, Stephanie, I saw you the last couple of days, huge waves rolling in to Gulf Shores, Alabama. You're now in Fort Walton Beach. What kind of waves do you have there, and have you even seen any surge?
Well, you know, we're not really prone to surge where we are, Jim, but we definitely see the wave. Let's take you down to the beach here. We're on a boardwalk, and it's very hard to face the wind here because that sand just blasts into your face, and it doesn't feel good. But as you can see, that water is coming all the way up to these dunes, and thankfully they have these dunes because in Ivan they didn't, and that water went right into the bottom floor as well as sand. Now, where they don't have the dunes, it's already washing over the walls. Let's show you those pictures from earlier today when that water was washing over the walls. We already have some flooded streets, as a matter of fact, and a lot of people have come here to escape the storm. We've seen a lot of Louisiana plates in the parking lot, and this hotel is actually full that we're staying at here. And we are under a flash flood watch, hurricane warning, tornado watch until noon, and a tropical storm warning. And just so you guys can get some perspective on the storm, these winds right now that I'm dealing with are sustained at 30 miles per hour. And what is a sustained wind? Well, that's a 1-minute average at 10 meters. And that's what we're feeling right now. And we're gusting to tropical storm force winds. We've seen a gust of 45 miles per hour. And of course, Marshall and Heather, that tropical storm parameter is 39 to 73. But look at this. This is just sustained at 30. I don't think people understand how fast those winds really are.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. And obviously, very rough conditions right now, and for many locations, it's just going to get a lot worse in the next few hours.
We're at the travel desk now with Nicole Mitchell, who said she even had to evacuate as a hurricane hunter.
Well, the Air Force Reserves is out of Biloxi,
right,
and so they evacuated their crews that are going to fly out to Houston. And then as I had gotten back to Biloxi yesterday, then gotten all that traffic that was all just going in one direction.
Yeah.
Madhouse
yesterday. So did they move all the planes to Houston?
The ones that were flying to Houston, the other ones kind of went to other safe places. Okay. So they're kind of doled out around the area, and a lot of people in that area are very concerned about what's happening with this storm. Well, as we head out this morning, with all that weather, of course, a lot of closures. New Orleans, Gulfport, Mobile, and Fort Walton closed, and we'll see how long it takes to get everything back open again once this passes through. It'll depend on the damage the airports might sustain. For the rest of the day, how about Cincinnati? You're going to see the northern end of some of these bands. Thunderstorms, delays possible. Same for Orlando. Even New York City, you're going to have that chance for some scattered storms for today. So a quick look at the northeast. There has been some activity up parts of 95, so do watch that. Some fog as well. But obviously, it is the southern part of the country that is feeling the most extreme impacts of this. Again, if you hit Louisiana, you're going to be blocked off from heading out on Interstate 10. And even the rest of Interstate 10, very problematic with the high winds and everything else. I would just stay off this all the way through the Panhandle. And then this moisture continues to spread northward through the rest of the day, so problems in places like Memphis. And we'll have all the latest details on the hurricane coming up with Dr. Steve Lyons.
You're tuned to Hurricane Central here at the Weather Channel as we watch Katrina having made its second landfall this morning.
We want to turn it over now to our hurricane expert, Dr. Steve Lyons. And Steve, where will the conditions be getting the worst over the next couple of hours?
Well, New Orleans is starting to go downhill real fast. I was just talking to WWL Radio in New Orleans when they were taken off the air by the strong winds there. And you can see the eye wall has made landfall in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, and it's moving to the north ever so slightly to the east of north, so the circulation center will miss downtown New Orleans. But they're still in some very strong winds and some very problematic surge problems there. It looks like the worst scenario is going to be for Mississippi, though. The water level rise there already 8 to 10 feet, and the right front quadrant of this hurricane that's still very strong has not gotten there yet. So we expect that water rise to increase rather dramatically in the next 2 to 4 hours. That's when it's going to peak. There's the circulation going overland. There's New Orleans downtown. You can see it moving to the east. And there's the Mississippi coastline, Waveland, Mississippi, Biloxi, Gulfport. You're in for some very high water in the form of surge in the next 2 to 3 hours. So stay away from the coastline and stay on higher ground. Heavy rain occurring in southeastern Louisiana now. You can see 3 to 6 inches is accumulated there, and that's going to continue over the next 3 to 6 hours for some flooding of rainfall flooding in downtown New Orleans. Now we expect the surge maximum to be somewhere in here between 16 and 22 feet. And that's probably going to be along the coast of Mississippi in the next 2 to 3 hours. Most of this water rise in here is associated with wave action that's running about 20 to 30 feet, scouring the coast and stealing all the sand away from the beaches in the western Florida Panhandle that had been put back after Hurricane Ivan last year. Now, this system is going to continue inland, and we're going to see significant damage to structures possible. The greatest threat in the red area here, this is still a Category 4 hurricane. It will weaken to Category 3 as it gets up toward the coast into Mississippi. But the damage for structure damage could spread well inland. And of course, the power outages have been widespread. We've seen power lines going down here, radio stations going out in New Orleans. That's going to extend inland. This is just through this evening. Beyond that time frame, it could extend well north. And notice it's extending also to the east, possibly into Georgia, including the large city of Atlanta over the next 24 hours. Now, what's going to happen elsewhere in the Atlantic Basin over the next couple of days after this system moves inland? The good news here, moving inland, it's moving fairly fast, so we don't expect any major flooding problems with it, although we could still see significant flooding and, of course, the tornado action. We're next monitoring the next Tropical Depression 13 out here in the Atlantic that's moving now to the northwest. It'll move north of the islands, and there's another low-pressure system behind it. So the hurricane season is in full swing with a Category 4 landfall right now. Let's get back to the studio now with Heather and Marcia.
All right, thanks, Dr. Lyons. You know, he was talking about water rises. There's some drastic actions that people might have to take if they need to.
That's right, and the National Hurricane Center is actually advising people here to take some tools out there in case you need to make an emergency exit. In case, say you're on the second floor, or even in the attic, and the water rises that much, you may need to break out. So this is a very serious situation for folks that did not evacuate and have stayed behind.
Now, the eye wall of this hurricane is back up to a 25-mile-an-hour diameter, which is down from its peak 32-mile-an-hour diameter when it was over the Gulf of Mexico. Still just a formidable hurricane. Wind still at 140 miles per hour. Pressure sitting at 921 millibars.
We can take a look at the forecast here throughout the southeast, and again, we're going to find that rain spreading northward throughout the day, as well as some strong gusty winds. So, you know, anywhere from Tennessee southward, we're going to be talking about power outages coming in across this region. You will find that areas like Tulsa, you'll be quiet and hot with temperatures topping out around 93 degrees today.
The inland impact of this over the next couple of days we'll discuss in further detail, but notice the increased chances of rain and thunderstorms for places like Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, London, Louisville. You'll all feel the impact of Katrina over the next several days.
And you're going to find that we have a chance of a few pop-up storms coming in the northeast, but remember, the next couple of days you're going to find a lot more wet weather coming in across this area, especially through the Ohio Valley and the interior section.
We'll take you out here on a very rough sea. Some of these wave heights off the coast have been to 47 feet.